Hello and welcome to the Tea Party Hardy channel, as in the Tea Party Hardy from the American Revolution. You know, the thing that's not going to be spoken of, guaranteed, going forward in our schools, because on day one, while Biden was getting rid of all those jobs in the Keystone Pipeline and the border wall construction folk and those who work in fracking, can't say you weren't warned. Yeah, he also got rid of the 1776 project, which was designed to counter the infusion of the 1619 project, which many history and academic scholars have pointed out is far more fiction than it is reality, and it is definitely tilted toward the left. Now, you would probably think, being on the right, it's like, well, isn't that repeating yourself when you say it's fiction and coming from the left? I'll leave that to you to decide. So this concept is obviously very near and dear to my heart. And as I make this video for you to share with you what's going on and give you a little bit of my take, I'm going to confess straight up, I do wish that this is the kind of video that the Critical Drinker or even over at world-class BSers and folks like that who are really skilled at making these videos in a way that twist and turn and are really cool. And some people think that about my videos, and thank you very much, but I do recognize that those guys are able to put it together far better than I, with the honestly, with the amount of time I have. If I had the time to do all the tons and tons of editing and everything like that, oh, I could rock your world. But I don't, so I appreciate you staying forward. If this is something that is near and dear to you, which is the actual representation of American history. Now, what I want to get into here is how they do the framing of it, and then some of the substance, and then we'll get out of here. Okay, so here we go. Biden revokes the Trump report promoting patriotic education using scare quotes. How lovely. You wouldn't want people to actually believe that Trump was promoting patriotic education. No. You have to use the scare quotes to go, quote unquote, patriotic education, wink, wink. Welcome to the view from the left from the headline on. Okay, so here we go. President Joe Biden revoked a recent Trump administration report that aimed to promote, here they are again with the scare quotes. This time there's two and there were only one up there. You need to talk to your editor about that. Patriotic education in schools, but that historians mocked and rejected as political propaganda. I would submit this right here. Takes one to know one. You academic historians, if you're able to call it political propaganda, it takes one to know one. Now, I get into fights on a regular basis over the definition of propaganda. It is stunning to me how many people don't know what it means. I invite you to go to the dictionary and look it up, and you will see it means not lying. Nowhere does it say lying. It means a one-sided argument. When you're doing propaganda, it means you're only presenting your point of view and not the other side. Remember, Fox got famous for being fair and balanced? We report, you decide. That's the opposite of propaganda. They've left that in the dust, and therefore they're suffering with their ratings being in the dust now too. When you get one point of view and no other one interjected, that's propaganda. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, isn't that every single commercial and almost every single movie? You're catching on. Yes, it is. So, I would submit fully that what was happening in the 1776 project was, in fact, the opposite of propaganda. It really was designed to show you both points of view. Quick glance would be, for example, what the 1619 project wants you to think is George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. Ooh, slaveholders. Not the forefathers that created a country that fought at the beginning to stop slavery and failed. They did. But as again in 1776, if you know what was going on in the debate to become the United States of America and leave England, the South said, ain't gonna do it, ain't no way, no how, The South also made the point, arguably correctly, that if America went into the Revolution and gave up their slaves at the exact same time, they wouldn't be able to financially, and they, I mean, the new union of the 13 colonies, because those two in the South, yeah, they really did exist. There really were 15 colonies. Look it up. The 13 colonies that united wouldn't have succeeded financially because they needed the income to not be so fluctuating by freeing the slaves and having to pay them cash. And as a side note, have you ever pondered the value and cost of black slavery in America compared to modern day illegal alien income? Because if you have, then you already know that black slavery, and I state that to differ it from the European slavery that was so predominant before the black slavery that will not be taught via the 1619 Project and might have been taught during the 1776 Project. Don't know. They only had a couple of weeks to put things together, and and then they got the boots. So there you go. Anyway, so yeah, just evaluate the cost of what it is to house slaves as well as dress them and feed them and make sure they get medical care. Now, for those of you that are hard case going, what do you mean dress them and feed them and give them medical care? They weren't treated like humans? Correct, but they were treated like beasts of burden that needed food, that needed clothing so they didn't get sick, because when they get sick, it cost a fortune to get them better, and a slave on its own has been compared in the modern world to the cost of a house. So you didn't want that product to be in a bad way. It's no different. Well, is it no different? I don't know. You decide. It's comparable, maybe, to owning a tractor. That thing costs a fortune. You need the maintenance to stay up. You want it to doing good. You don't want it to be broken and in the shop. Because if it's in the shop, it's not actually working in the field and it's costing you more money. So it's similar to that. Now, compare that to paying somebody in America as an illegal alien under the table, no taxes in other words, and below minimum wage. And you don't have to pay for their housing, and you don't have to pay for their clothing, and you don't have to pay for their food. Which one cost more? As Fox News used to say, we report, you decide. But it's something to ponder. Anyway, so in throwing it out, you've got these what did they call them? Historians. The historians that mocked and rejected the political propaganda. Right. Okay. In an executive order signed on Wednesday, January 20th, in his first day in office, yes, the first thing he wanted to do was make sure everybody knows, no, we are the Hate America crowd. We own everything. And yes, you've all complained about the Hate America crowd for decades, but guess what? We own everything now. So it goes on. In an executive order signed on Wednesday, in his first day in office, Biden disbanded Donald Trump's presidential 1776 commission. What? No scare quotes? And withdrew a report it released Monday. Again, it was hastily put together, and let's face it, the election was over, so they knew, well, this is probably not going to go anywhere, so how much do we really want to put into it? And withdrew it, and it was released Monday. Trump established the group in September, and the election was election day, which has been expanded to election months, was November 3rd, but there you go. All right, in September, to rally support for, listen to this, from white voters. Really? I wonder what they base that on, because guess what? They don't substantiate that it was support from white voters. Could have just been, from American voters. But, that's their charge they throw out there. Or as they used to say not so long ago, without evidence to rally support from white voters. Yeah, that's accurate. Without evidence, with support from white voters, and a response to the New York Times 1619 Project. No, now that part is completely evident, which highlights the lasting, without evidence, consequences of slavery in America. Woo, so much without evidence. Thank you, AP. Well, how does it continue? In its report, which Trump hoped would be used in classrooms across the nation, the commission glorifies the country's founders. Yeah, most countries do glorify their founders, especially when their founders were the ones and the only ones to build their nation on ideas, not skin, not land, and not heritage. You better build it on something or you got nothing. Funny how that works. Plays down America's role in slavery, condemns the rise of progressive politics, as well they should, young Jedi, and argues that the civil rights movement ran afoul of the lofty ideals espoused by the founding fathers. Not sure how that plays out. Anyways, let's see. The panel, which includes no professional historians of the United States, complained. So Victor Davis Hanson isn't a historian of the United States. Then what the heck is he, AP? If Victor Davis Hanson, who was on that panel, isn't a professional historian of the United States, would you please tell me what all that stuff is on his resume and bio? This is why people hate the press, because the press lies. It says that he did it for white people with no evidence to support that. Then it says there's no professional historians of the United States on it. Straight up lies, guys. Of false and fashionable ideologies. Project much, lefties? That depict the country's story as one of the of oppression and victimhood. It's called intersectionality. Look up how that plays out, even though every single one of them participates in intersectionality on a regular basis. And they know that intersectionality is what's your level of oppression, what's your level of victimhood, where do you meet on the intersection. Instead, it called for a removal of efforts to foster Excuse me, I got that 180. Instead, it called for renewed efforts to foster a brave and honest, see, I'm supposed to be doing my homework, a brave and honest love for our country. Historians widely pan the report, saying it offers a false and outdated version of American history that ignores decades of research. It's only outdated because they're trying to make it outdated, just like they tried to make all those statues outdated by tearing them down. And hoot, by golly, were they successful, because those statues ain't coming back, it looks like. It's an insult to the whole enterprise of education. Education is supposed to help young people learn to think critically. If you think you're allowed to criticize anybody in these classes, good luck with that. Now, here's where it gets juicy. Said David Blight. Boy, is he a blight on the study of history. A Civil War historian at Yale University. That report is a piece of right-wing propaganda at Yale University. At Yale University, Yale students want to repeal the Constitution.
Do you feel the Constitution has any relevance to you at all?
I mean, when you put it like that, to answer that question, no.
Okay, now let's scoot you over to here. At Yale University, where that teacher works, it says it's a bunch of propaganda. 65% of everyone I spoke with signed my petition to eliminate the United States Constitution. I just want you to remember that. When you're listening to this guy say, that report is a piece of right-wing propaganda. Well, your propaganda has made it so that over 60% of the people in your school and possibly your students want to get rid of the United States Constitution. That's why the 1776 Project is so important. And here we have another report. And again, this just trashes how Associated Press. Oh, it's the same one. Okay. And then you come over here. Now this one, you get a little bit of a more fair thing where they actually do a little bit of that. Okay, we report, you decide. And is definitely, let's see, the commission first announced in September, aimed to push back on the country's irredeemably and systematically racist and present alternative to the New York Times. Now, this is why I say, and many along with me, that this is the Hate America crowd. Because if we, as America, are irredeemably, we can never, never, never change, and systematically racist, well, then we should hate you, because anybody that's irredeemable, I'm sorry, they're not worthy of love in that regard. So, yeah, baby. Biden is expected to rescind the commission as he already did. Okay, so there's that report. And then this one, this one just goes on to say, look at this. This is great. Trump's 1776 commission tried to rewrite U.S. history and put it back to telling the truth. Biden had other ideas. Yes, yes. He is now officially the leader of the Hate America crowd. The now dead report is easy to dismiss as propaganda, telling one side of the story. That's not what happens in 1776 Commission. But it also helps explain why conservatives seem so anxious about how Americans define democracy. Not really. You know, there's a reason that we're called Republicans when we're not Democrats, because I know you libertarians are like screaming in your Green Party, whatever your token. The Republicans like acknowledge what the pledge says, which Democrats don't even say. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic, not and to the democracy. We were not a democracy. We are never going. Well, I don't say never going to be a democracy, but we're not a democracy. We're a Republican. So this lady, Miss Robin, if it's a girl, I don't know if it's a girl or boy, by Robin Autry and Sociology Department of Wesleyan. And so here she is. She's the chair of the Sociology Department, and she just tears the concept of thinking that America in 1776 is correct, and instead it is all horrible, and you should go with 1619 all the way through. One more time, let's take a look at this. Okay, 65% of everyone that the fellow from Prager University interviewed and said, would you sign the petition to eliminate the U.S. Constitution at Yale said, of course, and did. This is why the 1776 Commission was so important. And now that it's dead, will we have, in the next 4 years, 100% of the people at Yale sign the petition to get rid of it? Is that what we should expect? 100% of the people at Yale? Yeah, you probably should. I would love to go on more about this, but you get the idea. 1776 is the real foundation of the United States of America. July 2nd, 1776. Why not July 4th? I'll let you look that up and have some fun. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not just the press lying to you, it's the teachers lying to you. Trump was trying to bring that back. Now, I've made a commitment to point out positive things that we can do. This one's easy. Go to the History Channel archives, go to the library, read books on 1776 from many different authors, see what's going on. George Washington owned slaves. George Washington made maps almost better than anybody in his lifetime. George Washington accidentally, kind of sort of, started the French Indian War, also known as the 7 Years' War, depending on who you're listening to. Yeah, that was him. But he also was the only general to win a revolution in Earth's history and say, after he was done, yeah, I'll see you later, I'm going back to the farm, instead of take over. Oh, but he became president. Yeah, many years later. Martin Luther King Jr., Michael King, if you prefer, cheated on his doctorate. So when you hear Dr. Martin Luther King, yeah, that's cheating to get his doctorate, Martin Luther King, just like Joe Biden did. And just like Kamala Harris plagiarized Michael King Jr., well, Michael King Jr. plagiarized to get his doctorate. And they held that back from the American population until 1991. Well, look it up. And Michael King Jr., stage name Martin Luther, yeah, he also cheated on his wife on a regular basis. A man of the cloth. So we can play this game with everybody because it turns out humans ain't perfect. But it doesn't mean that things they said and did in other realms weren't really, really powerful and extremely important. I have a dream that someday my children will not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. Those are really useful, valuable words. Too bad the left doesn't use them anymore and think that they're despicable. Nonetheless. So we can play this game with everybody. Now, the job of a teacher is introduce it. And like Fox News used to say, quite valuably so, they give them the largest audience ever. We report, you decide. It's not our job as teachers, as conversers, to demand that you agree with us. Just share the information, and they'll come to their own conclusions. If they match yours, yippee-ki-yay. If they don't, fine. And instead of saying, and if they don't, cancel them, get them ruined, never let them eat, starve them. Yeah, no. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the future.